The movie begins in Swellview, USA. Some group of military security transported a very delicate device into a restricted facility, located in the evil science core. Unbeknownst to them, Kid Danger was in the bunker, and not long after they left, he retrieved the device sprinting through the hallway. He ran for quite a while some security personnel hastily chased after him. He evaded them in style as he knocked them over one after another. He eventually came to a standstill when one of the guards threatened to shock him, but due to his slick nature he dodged the baton, making the guards to shock themselves. Then thereafter he locked them inside the facility. As he got out, we get to discover that it wasn't Henry all along, but it was Missy Martins who used a mask to guise herself. After successfully retrieving the rad device, Missy disassembled it in her lair, and we get to discover that the device is capable of altering reality, even powerful enough to bring back the dead. Back to the beginning where it all started. Henry became sidekick to Swellview's indestructible hero, Captain Man. After years of fighting crime together in the city, they also came in contact with a great ally, and a bizarre genius, Schwoz. Henry's best friends, Jasper and Charlotte, also came along the way, and not to forget his only sister, Piper, got in on the act also. But Jasper, he wanted more. He learned how to fight and speak Spanish from an audiobook, and weirdly enough he does his learning while sleeping. Jasper wasn't the only one who wanted more, as Henry wanted out of Swellview, and luckily for him, a radioactive cannon blew up in his face. Due to the intensity of the cannon, he could now generate a protective force field whenever he wanted. With his newly found powers, he was able to save the whole of Swellview, by sacrificing himself while trying to divert a bomb from the city. After this incident, the entirety of the city thought Kid Danger died in the fire, and he let them because he was ready to become his own superhero, instead of someone else's sidekick. Henry, together with Jasper, has been serving as the city of Dystopia's local hero after leaving behind his Swellview days. Piper and Schwoz also relocated to Dystopia, and by this time Henry was already as famous as he could be. Piper urged Jasper to skip work tonight so as he could spend more time with them, but he informed them there's an important mission at hand. According to Jasper, Dystopia runs on nuclear power, so it buys fuel rods from other countries, and when the delivery trucks get past the city, Blackout, who happened to be a supervillain, would destroy the plutonium fuel rods. Schwoz was confused on why he wants to destroy the rods, and not after Jasper informed them of the menace, there was a total blackout in the city. On getting the hang of this, Schwoz immediately got to work, trying his best to get the lights on, while Jasper geared up for battle. Using an extended camera system, Schwoz was able to see through the vehicle carrying the fuel rods, and not too long after, Blackout imminently intercepted the vehicle. Almost immediately, Jasper engaged the villain in a chauvinistic battle, while he kept on asking for Henry's whereabouts. They fought gruesomely for quite a while, and not long after, Henry arrived at the battle scene in an awesomely epic way. It was a face-off of meta-humans. Instantaneously, they engaged themselves in an utterly brutal dramatic fight, and with time, Henry blasted him through the window. After the fight, he went over to exchange pleasantries with Piper and Schwoz, after which he rekindled with his teammate, Jasper. Part of Henry's deal with Bizwatch is, he gotta say business every 45 seconds while fighting crime. The entirety of the crowd jeered for them as they stepped out, and Henry utilized every opportunity he had to look cool. While all this was happening, Missy was busy activating the rad device so as to create an alternate reality, one which Henry is alive. The fight with Blackout wasn't concluded yet, so Henry used his force field to deflect his attacks, after which he knocked him over to Abyss Unknown, and that was when electricity returned to the dystopian city. After the awesome knockout, civilians flooded Henry trying to get an autograph, while Jasper wasn't paid any attention whatsoever. As they were conversing, Jasper saw the ad of the deal Henry just closed for them, but he got really disappointed as his face was blurred out. Detective Jones also made the whole scenario worse, as she requested a picture with Henry, not him. Jasper was all in his feelings as he felt Henry was getting all the credit, so he decided to go home. As he was about going, Henry informed he'll be moving out of their house, insisting he wants his own space as they aren't kids anymore, and this made him walk out in frustration. When Henry eventually got home, he unearthed everywhere had been ransacked, and he felt Blackout was the culprit. Meanwhile elsewhere, Missy activated the last stages of the rad weapon. Henry scoured through his abode looking for a clue, and it was at this moment Blackout knocked him out of the window. Henry was about to fall to his death, but instead he fell into the alternate reality created by Missy. The next day Henry woke up from his slumber, but he was utterly confused on where he was. She unearthed he was in Newtown, suggesting she brought him back to life, and it was then her sister Gemma showed up. Missy convinced her not to tell her mum about what she just saw, and after she left she nervously introduced herself to Henry as his dedicated superfan. After the introduction she showed Henry the reality-altering device, telling him that's how she was able to bring him back from the dead. On hearing this he told her he never died, and the whole Swellview thing was just a facade to get him out of the loop. Missy was immensely pissed in light of this new information, but Henry calmly explained why he did what he did. Missy then told him of the incessant crimes happening here in Newtown, insisting that was the whole purpose of bringing him here so they could fight crime together. Henry still insisted on going back to Dystopia, but as Missy was about to power on the rad device, a lady from downstairs began screaming for help. As they looked down the window, Missy unearthed the threat looked exactly like Coach Craig, a character from one of her fanfictions. After much conviction from Missy, Henry agreed to help the estranged lady, but on the condition he goes alone, notwithstanding the fact that Missy wants to fight crime with him so badly. Henry got his ass handed to him in battle, and he got to discover he wasn't with his superpower in this reality. He wasn't even done with Coach Craig yet, but then Missy told him of the arrival of another monster from her fan fiction, an electric vampire. On hearing this, Henry eventually approved for her to help him, and to his surprise she knocked out Craig with ease. Henry couldn't have it anymore, so he insisted on going home, and just when Missy was about to initiate the rad device, the electric vampire showed up, and to his astonishment, it was Piper, his sister. Henry hastily hit the button to go back to dystopia, not knowing Piper had already pulled one of the crystal in the device. A transformative twist unfolds as they found themselves in a nightclub in Swellview. In this alternate reality they also saw Piper, so out of curiosity, Missy tried to return them back home with the device, and it was at this moment Henry unearthed Missy purposely trapped them in a story mode of her own making, with no known way of unlocking it. Henry got mind blown when Missy told her that in this story, he isn't the superhero, rather, he's just a mere sidekick, but this time not to Captain Man, but to Captain Stash, who happened to be Jasper. Henry got even more pissed off when he figured Jasper can fly, and he had his dream superpowers. Jasper was so cool in this alternate reality, and it was at this moment Missy told them how this all happened, suggesting they're just mere characters from her script. Piper had an existential crisis, on figuring they're just figments of Missy's imagination, but then Henry came up with her brilliant idea. He unearthed since they're in Swellview, there has to be a Schwoz here, suggesting all they have to do is find him and get him to fix the rad, but he too had an existential crisis, when Missy told him she didn't input Schwoz in any of her stories. Although, according to Missy, the rad fills in the blanks to make the reality complete, so it's possible Schwoz might also be here. On hearing this they screamed his name, and after searching for a short while, Henry found him in the kitchen doing dishes. Henry tried to explain to him he's in an alternate universe, but Schwoz pushed him away insisting he doesn't know who he is. Henry was eventually able to get him to examine the rad device, but just when he was about to get to work, Coach Craig showed up blowing an extremely loud whistle. Captain Stash flew over immediately to deal with the menace, but Missy told Henry Stash can't do it on his own, insisting he needs to change to his uniform. In this reality Henry changes into his psychic uniform by chugging a can of soda, but when he changed he looked awesomely ridiculous. Funny, ain't it? According to Missy he goes by the psychic name of Lord Lolly, Captain Stash's wealthy loyal sidekick, with his secret weapon being the Lolly Smacker. Henry grabbed the smacker with frustration as he had no choice, and just when Craig was about to shave the captain's mustache, he aggressively smacked his face, but it didn't have any effect, rather it tweaked. Coach Craig, already immensely pissed off, tossed him around like he was playing soccer. Using his own weapon against him, he smacked the shit out of Henry, but then Captain Stash came to his rescue. Stash dealt with him like a hero and after he was done tossed him out the door. The whole crowd jeered loudly for Captain Stash, praising him to be their hero, while nobody paid any attention to Henry, leaving him in the dark. Ironic, isn't it? Henry, already frustrated, sat in his lonesome in the kitchen. Missy tossed him a gold star to cheer him up, because she figured he's having a hard time constantly living in Jasper's shadow in this story, so she started giving him gold stars after missions, just to let him know that someone appreciates him. As they were still conversing, Schwoz bursted in proclaiming he got the rad device figured out, but according to him there was a slight problem, as there's a crystal missing in the device. Frank Iney came in almost immediately ordering them out of his kitchen, but as he saw they were reluctant to leave, he started dragging the rad device with them, and in the process he mistakenly transported them to a cartoon animated reality. On getting the hang of this, Missy hit the button again and they were transported back to Newtown, but this time the machine brought Frank Iney here also. Both Frank Iney and Henry wanted to push the button so as to return back to the party, but Missy halted them, explaining they have no control of which story the machine would choose, as it picks at random, so they can't guarantee it'll take them to where they want to go. On spur of moment, Coach Craig and Henry's vampire sister showed up. Henry tried to have a dialogue with her, but she attempted attacking him, and that was when Frank Iney intervened to distract her. It didn't work out too well for him as Piper bit his hand, making him transform into an evil vampire also. Piper, accompanied with Frank Iney, tried to lure Henry and Missy out, but they hid carefully inside a bus. It was utterly disastrous for them because if they end up bitten, their minds would change and they'd be stuck in this reality for the rest of their lives. Instantaneously, Coach Craig pulled them both out of the bus, but just when Piper wanted to reach for the rad device, Henry pressed the button, transporting them to another reality. In this newfound reality, Jasper was present there also, so to keep him in loop, they narrated the entire story of how they got here to him, insisting they need to find Schwoz because their rad device got broken in the process. Here in this reality they teamed up to fight a team of Mounties, and it was a really awesome moment for Jasper. Missy trapped the Mounties in a container, and the best friends cheered for a job well done. As they were celebrating their conquest, the big guy they'd been waiting for showed up in a detached truck. To their greatest astonishment, the big guy was Schwoz. Henry was so happy to see him, and almost immediately Schwoz got to work on the rad device. Schwoz said the same thing the last one said, the neodymium crystal isn't in the device, and without it, the rad can't work at full capacity. Missy then remembered she saw Piper wearing it as a necklace, reason why it has been locked in story mode ever since, because she stole it on their first meeting. Missy was now on the verge on becoming depressed as she felt it's all her fault, but Henry was there to console and cheer her up. He then inquired if Schwoz can fix the device if he gets him the crystal, and he concurred positively, and even better, they don't have to touch it to go back to their worlds. Henry then devised a plan to retrieve the crystal from his vampire sister, but Missy felt their chances of success are very thin, as they're going up against 3 supervillains. The threat was immensely great because if Piper gets hold of the rad, she'll transverse through all of her fictional stories, creating an army of vampires using them to assault the real world. Schwoz coupled the device back together, after which they all pressed the button and returned to Newtown. By this time, Vampiper had already captured Debbie. She took Debbie inside, leaving her subordinates to have it out with them. Jasper fought with Coach Craig and Frankini at the same time, while Henry and Missy came face to face with Vampiper inside the house. Henry imminently got a hold of Piper, and this action of his made him acquire a newly found superpower. Missy was eventually able to get the crystal, but in the process she got bitten by Vampiper. Almost immediately Henry threw the crystal to Schwoz, but by this time, Vampiper had already acquired a League of Vampires. Schwoz was eventually able to reset and reactivate the machine, making each characters to return back to their actual realities. Missy was so happy to be back home, while Henry on the other hand was back in dystopia. For a while he went over everything that had happened so far, and figured he has been so mean to Jasper, so he went to see him in a restaurant almost immediately. For the first time in years he acknowledged Jasper as a very good friend, after which he apologized for all the times he made him feel horrible. As they were conversing, Blackout resumed his rampage on dystopian electricity. They confronted him together, but this time they didn't fight individually like they always do, rather they fought as a team for the first time ever. Due to their joint effort they were able to take him down for real this time. After the battle, Jasper was finally admonished by Detective Jones, whom he had been crushing on for quite a while. Henry was immensely happy for Jasper, and he knew he wasn't needed in dystopia anymore, so he returned to Newtown to help Missy and the whole town, and that was how the movie ended. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe and comment. Thank you.